Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live, where we're going to dish a little bit more about The Biggest Loser, Fit for TV, and more. I really appreciate you guys coming tonight. I've got two guests with us, even on a holiday week, and a week that's been just crazy. So thank you guys for joining. My name is Adrian. I was on season 3 of The Biggest Loser. Since the show, I more than doubled my weight. Then I fought through running, restriction, gastric bypass, carnivore, keto, low carb, GLP-1, and I've finally found the tickets for me. So I would like my two guests to introduce themselves. I'm going to go ahead and start with Ashley.
Hi, I am Ashley Johnston-Palu. I was on season 9 of The Biggest Loser. I as well gained all my weight back, and I am now down 160 pounds by using a GLP-1 as a tool with exercise and healthy eating and weightlifting and protein.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Jeff, and I was on season 2. And I live in Sun Fun, New Jersey, with my wife, 4 daughters, and now 3 grandsons. And I weighed in at 370 pounds. I was the oldest and probably most disabled on my show, but I just absolutely love sharing this opportunity to share about my experience and also what happened after the show. I was able to keep most of my weight off for about 6-7 years, and then I developed a massive DVT and something called post-thrombotic syndrome. It really took a toll on me physically and mentally, and I regained most of my weight back, and slowly I've been able to, with a lot of support from my family, friends, and medication, have been able to improve my health and my journey, and look forward again to sharing that all with you.
Well, we've got lots of stuff to go through tonight, including some notes from Jillian, some stuff from Dr. H. But the first thing I want to ask is just, when you guys entered the show, what was the most shocking thing that you found behind the scenes? And I'll go ahead and be first, just to warm you guys up. I think the most shocking thing was that there wasn't a staff there. It was some PAs. Is it Sandy was taping us up, the tape guy, and that was it. And then a bunch of cameras in the corner going as we walked around. That was the most shocking thing to me, is that we mostly in season 3 only saw the trainers when the cameras were there. And also, I'm going to keep going. Also shocking was that finding out for our season that a week on TV was not a week in real life. It was like I want to say some of them were over 2 weeks, and how long the production was. So how about you, Ashley? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what was shocking for me was actually how hard the exercise was. I was like, I'm going to be on the show. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then once I was there and like actually doing it, I was like, I can't do this. I have to leave. Like, I tried to leave because it was so hard. So that felt very shocking to me. But we had full cameras everywhere, all around us. We had camera men, camera women, sound. We had like a whole production. So that was like hard getting used to that. And then having cameras in our rooms, in the corner of our bedrooms and stuff. So just like changing, trying to remember how to change, like just always being on camera.
Jeff, how about you?
Oh, that's easy. It was everything. I never saw season 1. I remember we watched Law and Order SVU, and this thing came on coming this season, The Biggest Loser. And I looked at my wife as, oh my God, reality TV's gone too far. They have a show about who's the biggest schmuck. So I never watched the show until the end of the season of Law and Order SVU. It said, and log on to NBC.com for your chance to be on season 2. And it showed scenes for the finale. And I'm like, oh, it's a weight loss show. So actually, when I actually lost 30 pounds before I got on the show. I lost the whole concept. So everything was really a surprise to me. But I think the one that probably surprised me the most is the hurry up and wait. The fact that, they would take us to some challenge somewhere, like an airport or, a hotel, whatever. And then you'd sit there for 2 hours in a van with no air conditioning to wait. I mean, so the whole idea, and I was a film major in college, but I really never quite, it shocked me, the real part of production. It's funny, but the cameras, very quickly, you kind of just forget about it or ignore, except the cameramen kept asking me like medical questions, and they got, we became friends, and you're not supposed to be like interacting with them. But for a lot of that, you just, you kind of put that out of your mind that, got millions of people watching you. But that was probably one thing that still, was very interesting, the difference between how the production goes versus, what you see on TV.
Yeah. Did you guys also take hours and hours and hours just to film the weigh-in? I mean, walking in 25 times. And on my season, I think I remember the week that I was going, that I had to walk up on the scale multiple times to film it multiple times. And I already knew I was going home, and they're like, we're not getting more out of this.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, our season, we only had to go like we did once for the scale. They mastered it by season 9. They got better at stuff like that. But we did have to film like walking up to the gym multiple times, wait for them to wet the concrete down and do all the stuff. But when we went to the scale, it really was just one time. So they got better at that by my season.
So when they decided, they filmed you getting a phone call in the hotel room, which, I think I had been sequestered like 7 days before they let us know we were. And I think around 4 a.m, we got up. They got us in a van with like the 2 other contestants. You weren't allowed to talk. And then they drove us out to the Hummingbird Ranch. And we get out of the van and they film us walking up and down the hill for probably at least 3 hours. I remember poor Matt got overheated. They had to call an ambulance for him. But that was my introduction to the ranch. It was just walking up and down that hill just so they could film that one opening scene that was maybe 10 seconds for at least 3 hours. And again, we weren't supposed to be talking. It was very surreal.
We have our first question, and it said, what was the total time that it filmed for each of you? Mm-hmm. So for me, I came on later on in the season, and it felt like a long time before I even came on, and I don't remember what week it was, and I guess I should have notes in front of me. But I feel like even just the few episodes I was on, that it was 2 or 3 months of filming. Like, it was a long time. So when you see these people getting so emotional, you got to recognize, I don't know about you, Ashley, but in our season, you were not allowed to talk to the outside world. You were gone for a very long time. And I'm wondering the same thing. Do you know how long the filming was on each of your seasons?
Yeah, mine was 7 months. We filmed for 7 months. Yeah. I mean, we went home for, I believe, 1 month before the finale, and then it was 7 months total. And then, yeah, so ours was quite long. And no, we were not allowed to speak to anyone in the outside world because they use that as incentive for the challenges, right? Like, you can get a letter, you can get a phone call from a family member and stuff like that. So yeah, 7 months.
So I was on the ranch. I was in the hotel, I think about 6 days. And then I was on the ranch for 12 weeks. And I remember this because they told me the most I would be on is 10 weeks. And that's what I had told my practice. And then what happened is they came, I think around after 7-8 weeks, and they said, oh, we showed a pilot at Radio City Music Hall, and they loved it so much, NBC, they're going to bump Fear Factor and move us to the fall. And everybody's all happy. And they go, well, that means we need 4 more weeks. And I was like, I need to go home. I have to work. And there was only one other contestant, Mark the cop, that both of us had to get back. And they said, well, you could try to get voted off, which I tried to do, but they voted Pete off. And then they told me that they had called my chairman and told him, and he said, everything's fine, which is actually not true. So that was a whole other thing when I got back. But that's how I remember for sure. It was 13 weeks that I was there. And then there was only 1 other week on the ranch after I went home. And then, so that was March to June. And then in November was the finale. So I think I was home another 5 months before the finale.
Wow. Yeah, ours was a long time before the finale as well. Like 4 or 5. It was a long 3-4 months. It was a long time. Mm-hmm.
Ours was like 1 month. 1 month.
That would have been nice, because to maintain such an extreme weight loss for that long, I didn't. Yeah. I'm one of my friend Kyle here. He just sent me that I'm not the only person that gained weight between the filming and the finale. Wow. There's like, I don't remember if he sent me like a dozen. There's like a dozen of us who actually gained weight because it was such a long time and my body was fighting me. So I want to ask you guys, one of the notes I have here from Dr. Huizenga, he is dispelling weight loss myths and myths of he thinks of the show. And one of them is that he doesn't feel that metabolic adaptation I'm not sure if he said is permanent or at all. I'm wondering if you guys feel, let me see here. He says, misconception, the metabolic rate, the BL contestants was permanently damaged. Fact, the study claiming this has fatal flaws and recent, more complete research has not been able to confirm its findings. It is a misconception. The New York Times science writers understand science and try to fairly approach medical complex of both sides. Fact, I saw no evidence of this in their coverage of the Biggest Loser medical study. Do you guys believe that this, I'm going to go last on this one. Do you guys believe that your hormones or thyroid or both tanked after the show, which made it more difficult to keep the weight off, if not gain weight? Ashley, you get to go first.
I have a hard time because if I had I kept all my weight off for 6 months, but I also accountably stopped exercising as much as I had. I started, well, of course, we weren't working out 8 hours a day. When you're in the real world, you can't do that, right? But I had also started skipping workouts and started kind of fumbling on food and stuff. So when I started gaining, I don't know, the ability to keep it off for 6 months, I feel like maybe, I mean, do I believe that I had some damage? Probably. I starved myself for 7 months. My hair had fallen out. I had no hair on the finale. If you look at that picture you put up of me, I have no hair. So do I think it was completely destroyed? No, because I was able to maintain with eating a higher calorie and working out for 6 months. Accountably, why I gained my weight was because I stopped doing the things I needed to do. Exercising regularly, counting my calories, that started slipping. I kind of started getting back into the old habits. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. I believe in science though.
Let's hear you, Dr. Jeff.
So let me respond personally and then as a physician scientist. So personally, I lost 100 pounds. I was in the 12 weeks I was on the show. Came home and I lost another 50 pounds after 5 months at the finale. And that was because of a tremendous support from everyone. I came home to a different environment than a lot of my colleagues did. But I had to go back to, actually a 70-hour or more work week because I had to make up time. But even that just wasn't sustainable. And so after the finale, I probably gained, I don't know, about 7-8 pounds a year for about 6 years. And a lot of that was it was just not feasible to keep up the kind of workout. Once I had my DVT and my leg feels like it has an anchor on it, it just really messed with me because exercise always drove everything. It drove my sleep, my appetite, everything. And once I lost that ability, it really affected me. And I started going back to some old habits, but an inability to sustain the kind of level. I'm not talking about the exercise we did on the show. I'm even just talking about playing basketball twice a week, going to the gym 3 times a week, just things that are more realistic I wasn't even able to do. And what I also, from a scientific standpoint, know that when I lost all that weight from all those years of adaptation of poor eating habits and poor sleep, my body was fighting the ghrelin levels going up, leptin down, to try to get me back to what my body thought was a normal or healthy weight, because my thermostat was dysfunctional. And that was from all the years of poor eating. That was on me. Do I think that, yes, after that much weight, there may be some transient decrease in metabolic rate? Sure. But a study of 14 people over a short period of time is just not going to answer that. And what I respect, and I have such respect for Dr. Ising, is the way he answered that. So my answer is I don't know, but I don't blame that for my weight regain. I take full responsibility. Everybody had things that happened to them. My leg, I could have adapted and tried other things to maintain. I didn't. And that's on me and not anything on anything else. But I think it's physiology. And you see this a lot in people who had bariatric surgery, things that had nothing to do with The Biggest Loser. GLP-1s, when you stop it, the weight regain, it's because, again, your body reverts to what it pathologically thinks your weight should be. And that, I think, is fact. Whether or not what we did, which is, you just don't have enough, you have an N of all the contestants, but not since then, to kind of follow long term to see that. I don't think that data is out there. So for people to make those claims, the answer is you really can't justify that. It's maybe, but I think there's too many factual reasons why most of us, 90% of us regained our weight back.
I find it interesting that Jillian claims that most of her contestants have kept their weight off. That's one thing I want to say. Another thing I want to say is that, and this is just really heartbreaking and sad, I have been reaching out to so many Biggest Loser alumni. Our group for years had no posts on it. How many people are hiding? I hid for 8 years. For 8 years, I refused to even go back to my hometown because they celebrated me on the show, and I didn't want them to see that I had gone from 161 to 300 and plus. And I hid. And as I'm reaching out to people, there's so many people who are hiding in our community. And it's heartbreaking. So, in one way, when people are watching this, you got to know these are people who have found some hope, have found a path, have found some light, but there's a lot of people still in the dark. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to say, because I talked to quite a few people today, and I mean, we have like therapy sessions together. We call each other, and there's a lot there. But next thing I want to say is that I did regain all my weight almost immediately. For a long time when I was hiding, I really blame myself. I've never blamed the show. I've never thought the show did this to me. But when I found out about this study, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. And another thing that I realized recently was that I was doing it full time. And when I went back to college and went to work, that wasn't possible anymore. And so I took on all of this when in reality, it wasn't a reality that I was going to be able to continue to work out 2.5 hours a day, 2 workouts. It just wasn't going to be a reality anymore. And then the last thing I want to say is, I don't care what diet you're doing. I don't care if it's the cleanest, most amazing diet you've ever done. If you lose a lot of weight really fast, scientifically speaking, there's metabolic adaptation. It is not a Biggest Loser specific thing. It is just a scientific thing. So that's my thought on it. I think it's absolutely real. I don't know if I believe it's permanent, because if we look at our ancestors, they would have potentially gone through famine, and were they just screwed for the rest of their life? I don't think so. I think our bodies can adapt, and I believe God can heal all things. Okay. Do you guys have any more?
Can I add something about Dr. Huizenga?
Yeah.
Okay, so I sat next to him at a Biggest Loser wedding. We won't discuss that part. And he was like, I told him, I said, I am like trying to lose this weight again. And that I did struggle. I feel like all these years I just kept trying to lose, and I just kept gaining, right? But I wasn't like focusing down like I know I needed to, honestly. And I told him, I said, I just don't know like what I'm doing wrong. And he was like, well, you trained your body to eat 800 calories and to work out 9 hours, 8 hours a day doing cardio. He was like, your body doesn't know how to lose weight without doing that. So I think that kind of plays into it as well, the kind of how we've conditioned our body to lose in such extreme situations, that the body, like you were saying, Dr. Jeff, it just holds on. It wants to be like surviving, right? It wants to go back to that weight that it's known that's like that survival kind of weight. So I found that interesting that he shared that with me.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. People's metabolic rate drops in a way to try to adapt. And I found it interesting, at least for several seasons, that the former contestants who kept the weight off all became trainers themselves.
Yes.
Or in some field where they were able to exercise, and it just was not reality for me. I was lucky. My kids played sports. I tried to do things with our family. We became much more active as a family, little things, but it just wasn't sustainable to do anything close. And when I looked at people who were maintaining the weight, it was fascinating to see how many of them had become trainers, or, were in a environment where that was something that they could continue to do. And they probably had to do it at a higher level to try to even maintain the weight. Because I do think there's some adaptability, but that it's permanent or destroyed your body. No, I personally don't think that. And I don't think there's enough evidence to support that.
I agree.
I want to say, I don't know if you guys have seen Bob, he did an interview and he said that anybody who has struggled with obesity, that it is a monkey on your back for the rest of your life. And that made me feel like, okay, Bob, we can be friends now because you get it. Like it's not just lose the weight and now
You're
and
cured.
yeah, I want to just share a little experience here. So when I regained all my weight, as soon as I hit the 330s, that's when it was like, okay, Adrian, you're 5'4", you got to do something about this. So I started running and restricting Biggest Loser style, lost the 100 pounds. Then my weight started going back up, even though I'm still marathon running and restricting. So 230 starts going back up. So I have the gastric bypass. I go down, I go back up. I do low carb, go back down, go back up. And I'm still doing it. So you can't just say I'm not consistent. Go keto, go down, go back up. Go carnivore, go down, go back up. Go lion diet, where you just eat nothing but beef, salt, and water. At the end of lion diet, that's when it dawned on me that I was diet chasing, and it wasn't the ticket. I was adapting to every single thing I was doing, and I just kept chasing it further and further and further. And so for me, in the end, it was really supportive to find the GLP-1 that supports gut hormones, get that signaling going so that when I eat food, it digests it more properly, signals to the brain properly. And so anyway, I don't know if you guys want to share at all. I think you guys may have touched on a little bit like what has worked for you and what hasn't.
Yeah. So I feel like I've tried every diet under the sun. Before the Biggest Loser, after the Biggest Loser, I really took more of like a holistic kind of approach. I did Whole30 several times. Have you heard of the Whole30? You only eat whole foods, you cut out all this stuff. It's pretty extreme for 30 days. I did that a couple times. And I think overall, like I would chase diets and then I would lose, but I never really successfully lost at home on my own until I started taking the GLP-1. I would lose like 20 pounds, nothing extreme. And that's by doing like I did keto, I did all this stuff and I was restricting and I was working out and I just like it wasn't working for me. And so when I started taking my GLP-1 and I was like, okay, I know I'm going to use this as a tool. So I'm going to work out. I'm going to count my calories and I'm going to eat high protein and water, all the things. And it actually started working for me. I was like, okay, so my body, I do have an issue. It's not just me, like my body isn't functioning properly. And so, yeah, I mean, I am so blessed to have the opportunity to be able to take this medicine because it is literally saving my life.
So for me, the overriding thing, like I said, is a supportive environment. And so many, unfortunately, not just former contestants, but other people out there really don't have that. And it's just not realistic, whether you're a family of 2 or 6, like I was, for you to try to eat one thing while the rest of the family eat it. That's just not sustainable. And that just isolates you further. So one thing, when I came back from the show, is my whole family, we made healthy changes. And I got total buy-in. And again, we just started doing activities that were more involved, were more physical. We didn't say, oh, we're exercising. No, I'm trying to not let my daughter beat me in the 5K because then I have to do the dishwasher for 2 weeks. I mean, so there were a lot of things that we did for a while that helped me for those first, 6 years. But then, like I said, I after my DVT, I started to regain weight and a lot of bad habits. And for me, what's helped is one is the continuing the meal planning that helps. Going back to CPAP, I didn't have, I went on the show. Jillian worked us out one night so hard. We got back from a challenge. I passed out and I woke up the next day feeling great. I forgot to put my CPAP on. And then Dr. H came and did a whole thing with me about that. And I was able to keep that off for years. But again, if you're not getting enough sleep, it's just you're not putting fuel to the fire. And there's so many people who don't get that. It's almost impossible to lose weight if you're not getting adequate sleep. I mean, and of course, exercise is not nearly as efficient as dieting, but for someone like me, it affects my appetite. So it drives those things. So I've gotten to be more physically active. I played pickleball with my son-in-law. I get to play with people half my age. And so I've adapted to things that I can do with my leg, that I couldn't do basketball or half marathons, things like that. But, I'll walk a 5K with my family. They're nice enough to wait for me to finish. But I'm on a GLP-1, and I will tell you, I'm very strict about how I prescribe that to patients. And if you look at the clinical trials, the people who did best were in a formal diet and an exercise program and got a lot of support. And that's what that holistic approach really helps. But what I think the GLP-1 does that other things like gastric sleeve doesn't, and other is affect those gut hormones that are so overpowering. I will tell you, my wife and I, we meal plan, we do everything healthy. But if I don't go upstairs after dinner, I go foraging. If I have food in my car, I will eat it mindlessly. I'm a physician. I know better, but I will do those things. And these people don't understand unless you've had an other addiction. And we, in some way or another, all had an eating disorder for whatever reason, or you want to call it. And obesity is a disease. It is not curable. It is manageable. My patients lose a lot of weight. Their BMI goes under 30. I tell my residents, they still have obesity. You don't change that diagnosis. It's just that their ability, it's well controlled. So I think that what it did is it affected those gut hormones, and I don't feel hungry, and it really keeps me from having that unconscious eating. And it's helped a lot of my patients to do that. Now, unfortunately, if you look at studies, over 90% of patients start regaining weight if their insurance doesn't cover it anymore or they stop it. So we know that this is probably lifelong, just like our colleagues who have been able to keep most of the weight off, because what did they do? They kept exercise. They are in an environment where they're able to do something that's not realistic for most of us. And unfortunately for a lot of patients, it's not realistic for them to get this medication. But I think when it's combined with healthy eating, adequate sleep, and moderate exercise, that means walking briskly. There's no evidence that walking faster is necessary, especially for managing like diabetes, et cetera. That combination makes the patients of mine who had bypass surgery or gone to medicine and think it's the cure are the ones who have the poorest outcome and often don't tolerate it. But those who adjust, eat slower, they study themselves, they know what things trigger them to get nauseous, whatever, and start becoming physically active, and getting adequate sleep and feeling and taking care of themselves mentally as well, tend to do very well. And I'm glad that we have this to help our patients. But when I see people getting it over the counter and doing things without all the proper support, I do worry. And it's not because, I'm on salary. So whether someone comes or not, it's not like I'm trying to drum up more patients, but I think that you need that support because a lot of my patients don't get it at home.
I just kind of want to do a standing ovation for the both of you. Because you would just dispelled so many problems with the medication. And that is, I'm not a doctor, but it seems like some people are being dosed a little too high where they can't nourish themselves. They're not feeling well, so they can't exercise. But when people find the right spot for them, all it's doing is like restoring proper signaling to the brain and the pancreas. But in combination with sleep, mental health, diet, exercise, you guys are great. I love you. Speaking of, if you guys would like some support, please join radicallyhealthy.com. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to some of the questions here. First of all, Kyle says, "Hi, Dr. Jeff. My mom loved you, and that's how she got me into watching." And then he said, "Go Pink Ninja." Is that
you? That's me. Thank you. I love that nickname I received.
I
came home from the show and we did we had to walk in and get weighed in front of everyone, and they hadn't seen me in all this time. This was before the finale. And they all had these ninja masks over their face. And I was so confused. I was like, what is this? And they're like, you don't know? I was like, what? They're like, you're the pink ninja. I was like, I am. I had no idea, but I forever love it. So people still know me as that. It's very sweet.
So I'm going to change this next question just a touch. It says, what did you struggle with most after the finale? And I would like to know if you had any mental health struggles after the finale, because we kind of already went into the weight. I'm wondering the mental side. I think taking people who've struggled with weight their whole life, putting them in the spotlight, and at the same time having to adapt to a different body. What are your guys' thoughts? How did that go?
I definitely struggled with my weight after finale. Like I said, I kept it off for 6 months, but I really was doing some kind of unhealthy eating things. Like I wasn't eating 800, but I wasn't actually eating probably enough. And then when I felt like I would eat too much, like I was not doing like consistent healthy things with my body. So yes, I did after 6 months start gaining back. But to me, that was really due to mental health. Like I needed, I think after 7 months, like with Jillian screaming and then how she does that. She like screams in your face and then she takes you outside and she's like, okay, let's talk about like the mental side of it. Excuse me. And I was like thinking, I'm good. I'm cured. All these things that I like discovered about myself with past trauma and stuff. I'm good. I mean, did you guys see Dr. Hogan on the show? We had Dr. Hogan. He was our psychologist. Did you have him?
When I got voted off, before I went to the hotel, they had me meet with some psychologists for like 10 minutes who just basically said, don't go home and think you're going to be a star. And which I thought was good advice. I never had any intention that was going to be my future. But that was like literally a 10-minute discussion after I had gotten immediately after being voted off before they took me to the hotel. It was hilarious. It was almost like a disclaimer discussion. From what I remember, I thought it was sound advice, but it was literally, put a quarter in and you get, and what is it from Peanuts? You put a quarter in and you get, 5 minutes of advice. And that was it.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like it was enough. So when I got home, I started struggling and I actually did call Dr. Hogan. We only saw him maybe once a month on the show for like 30 minutes. So definitely not enough. And I wish I had personally continued the mental health journey once I was home because I did still struggle with like body dysmorphia kind of stuff. I really thought that I was just like still, I just didn't love myself still and I needed to like keep digging into that. So that would definitely be a reason why I started regaining too, is I just still had stuff to work on mentally.
I would say the thing that bothers me most about people say as a physician, what was your impression about being on the show? And I think I wrote, after I watched the documentary, I was really expecting it to be much worse than it was, in all honesty. I think there's things about it. I think selecting out only certain contestants, I don't think that was balanced. There was things about it, but it was, the fact that you had both producers on and they had Dr. H on, and there are parts about it I like, but the thing that as a physician bothered me most about the show was that there was absolutely in my season after that 10 minutes with Dr. Hogan, and maybe when I was in the hotel before when they were screening which of us two, we were all sequestered so we didn't see each other. Maybe I met with a psychologist. I don't remember, but that was it. Nothing when I was home, no contact at all. And I'll be honest, I just was blessed to come home and I can't emphasize this enough that I think I was an exception compared to some of my colleagues who went home. And then you look at that, just the divorce rate from my season, I think a reflection of went back to an environment that was very unhealthy, that I didn't go to. So my biggest problem was I had been away for 13, I never took a sick day. I never did. And I was gone for 13 weeks. And I remember I said I was going to be back for 10 weeks. And now, you mentioned that we had no contact with our family. So I'm thinking they talked to my chair and this is going to be fine. Meanwhile, they're calling my wife saying, where's your husband? We have a whole list of patients. Where is he? And she's like, I don't know. I'm not allowed to talk to him. And they were really mean. And she was so upset about it because she was missing me and I'm totally oblivious. I didn't know the Pope died. We had no TV, radio, newspaper. We had no outside contact. And then I come back and I found out about this and I was livid and I wanted to quit, but I struggled because I owed my wonderful colleagues for all the time they had covered me and they had been so supportive. And I had this tremendous guilt about that. That was probably the biggest struggle that I honestly had. It really wasn't until, like I said, after my devastating injury that it really messed me up. So, and I think I credit, I just had support. Even my patients were supportive. Can't tell you how blessed that I was. And that's why everything is on me about what because I didn't have what a lot of my poor colleagues had to go home to. And in terms of not the support that I did.
Yeah, for me, it was before the show, I honestly thought I wasn't worthy. I thought I wasn't lovable unless I lost this weight. I felt like I was always in the shadows, and which is a really strange thing because if you were actually around me, I was the captain of all my sports. I was in everything. It was like I was trying to get attention all the time. Weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm analyzing here. Anyway, so you put someone who thinks so little about themselves, but thinks that if they become small, they will have value. And so you get small, you get the spotlight put on you, and I realized that it was me all along. It took me more time. It took a long time to realize this, that the problem wasn't that other people didn't value me. The problem was that I didn't value me. And how am I going to fix that? The next thing that I did is I got into a relationship on the show with not a contestant at home back at college, and everybody said, this is not the time for you to be finding love. Please do not continue this relationship. Did I listen? No. Married him. Turned out when you're just not healthy mentally, you attract the wrong person for you. I'm not going to put him down today. The wrong person for you. So anyway, eventually I ended up struggling with alcohol, and I eventually quit. And I think quitting alcohol was what turned everything to where I am today, going through a 12-step program, learning my part in things, learning to give it to God, learning to serve others, learning to have gratitude. And so it took a long time, but there was a lot of work that did end up happening. And I think that's an important piece in everybody's health journey, is that mental piece. Yeah. Any more comments?
I would just say where I did struggle was before the show. You know, people say, well, you wrote on that you think the show saved your life. How? You regained your weight. And the reason was I remember a couple months before I even found out, remember, I didn't even know about the show. I woke up with bad chest pain, shortness of breath, went to the hospital, and I started saying goodbye to my wife. And she was hysterical crying because I was sure I was having a heart attack. And I just remember looking back on my life with a lot of regret. Not regret, I had a wonderful life, but looking back of what I could have, would have, could have, should have. And when I came back from the show, I started looking forward. And that is what I credit the show with. It gave me a cup half full attitude, where I was cup, 3/4 empty. I was grateful for the life I had. I had such, I really was blessed, but I really thought my life was over, that I was going to die young. And I look back on all my regrets of what I would have, could have, should have done. And even after my DVT, while that was devastating, I never looked back with regret again. And I just choose not to. I was just joking with I just got my shoulder injected with my colleagues. And I told them, I need you to do that because I refuse to grow old. I'm still a Toys R Us kid in heart. And it's just, the wonderful, fun things I do with my family, that even though I have this challenge that really has impacted me, I don't let it get me the way it would have before. And that I'm grateful for. But I was, I'd say a mess before the show. And it wasn't thanks to therapists on the show, whatever. I do credit whatever, that bond that I got with my teammates. It was the first time in my life I had to focus on me, right? I couldn't call my poor wife. She, did all the work of both of us. I had to focus on myself. And that, my nurse used to give me a book called Just Say No. And she'd say, did you read it? And I say, no. I still don't know enough, but I do try to prioritize myself more than I did before. And you know what? It made me a better father, because I showed my kids
I want to hug you. I love you, Jeff.
I love you, Jeff. Can I add something to the mental health piece?
100%.
I just did a post about this the other day. Now that I'm down and losing weight again in big numbers, down 160, that it's bringing up, thank you, it's bringing up stuff again. And I was talking about how gaining weight is clearly an emotional thing. And most people who gain weight don't not have some trauma back there that we're dealing with. And so taking it back off again, though, is almost more emotional. So I've had stuff come up during this weight loss journey this time that didn't come up the first time, that I didn't even realize I was had buried down in there. So I am at a place now where I am taking my mental health very seriously. And But yeah, it's coming back. It comes up again. And if anybody else is losing weight and trying to lose weight and going through a journey, that is normal and it's okay. And as long as you face it, and we can't bury it especially when you're on a GLP-1, there's no more burying it with the comfort of eating and those kinds of things. So it's like you have to sit with it and, get some help or figure out what you can do to get through it. So, and I encourage everyone on a weight loss journey to seek mental health care because it is very important. Just as important as going to the gym.
Boy, you don't pass go directly to med school. That was awesome. I really cannot underestimate. We're very blessed in we provide, America is terrible with mental health care. New Jersey is probably toward the bottom. In my practice, we have behavioral health externs. They have to do their 1,000 hours, and we provide free mental health care, so we're so blessed. And yes, we refer patients for depression, anxiety, eating disorder, substance abuse, but they also will see people who are struggling with their weight who don't have to have a formal eating disorder or formal diagnosis. And I think that gets lost, is how important addressing why you eat is. And I think that gets lost, and because that's just not respected or understood, that it's beyond eating, exercising, sleeping. It's also addressing the reasons that you do that you have that, whatever that dysfunction, that disorder that we have, and that it is lifelong. I think people do better when they recognize that, face it, and manage it. And rather than, how many people say, oh my God, I was on a diet and I cheated, and they beat up themselves up. And I say, no. I said, you're in a class. The class is about you, and it lasts the rest of your life. It's right. There's not pass fail, and so what you got to do is you got to look into, why did I do that, and try to understand rather than beating yourself up. I have a friend who wrote a book called Why Am I Hungry? And I think trying to get people to try to reflect rather than get angry and beat themselves up. And that's hard to do because that's what we're trained, especially in society. Right. And, so like I said, I wish for the people out there that are struggling or been hidden, I do. One of the best parts about the Netflix docuseries is that it's brought out, I think, a lot of our fellow alumni. I've been reading some of their thoughts. It's just, and I think it really makes me appreciate that we all have had a different, I had a very unique experience on season 2. I was on the men's team, and we were so closely, I'm still friends with most of them. Pete just came to visit me for a week. I've been so blessed that I have lifelong friends. I had a very different experience. And, I've seen on different seasons, whatever, people had a different journey, and you have to respect that. But I love that we're giving an opportunity for them to speak their truth. And hopefully that's helping and being therapeutic for them.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to pivot a little bit back into the drama because people have got their popcorn out. But first, I want to share, let's see here if it'll show you. Okay. Dr. Jeff, well, congratulations. I'm so happy for your success and health journey. I went to residency with you, so haven't seen you in many years. Won't give the age away. Best to you and your family. Oh,
I know, I don't like it, but I'm 63 and proud of it.
41. And I think the 40s are fabulous. Let's see here. Here was another one. Do you, just because we're still in mental health for a second, do you think that going on the show changed the way your family treated you as a person? Also hit the like button. Thank you, Becky. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with everybody you love. So I guess I'll start. I don't know. I think that I don't know anybody else who's been through a really big life change. Like when I got a divorce, it was very similar to coming off of The Biggest Loser, where I was maybe struggling mentally a little bit. And so they were kind of like, this is kind of awkward. We don't know what to do with you. Like, you're a little different now, and we're not 100% sure what to do with that. And so that would be the only thing. But obviously, as time progressed, we acclimated. How about you, Ashley? Was your family and friends, did they treat you any differently?
Some like distant family treated me like I was a celebrity. I'm like, wait, I'm your cousin. What? It was so confusing. Can I have your autograph? I'm like, why? You don't, what? As far as in a negative light, The only time I felt like judged by any family or friends was just when I was starting to regain. And I don't even know that they were judging me. I think it was probably my own insecurity and my own like negative thinking in my brain. So, but no, my family and friends were wonderful. I think everyone was really happy for me. Yeah, I didn't really have, I had a great positive experience. I had a great positive experience afterwards too. I didn't really get any hate and stuff. So I've been very lucky with that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish my wife and daughters could. I'd rather them share with you because it's not something our perception and reality might not always be the same. I mean, the one thing I know is, I remember going to my kids' schools to giving talks. I mean, who wants their parent at a school, their school? But they seem to be, happy that I got to share my experience. Like I said, I was an athlete and I played baseball in college, and but I never ran. I always hated running. And I started running 5Ks like a couple a year with my kids. And it was just, fun to do that with them. When we make a challenge, whoever comes in last has to do one of their chores for 2 weeks or something like that. And we'd play soccer. I put lights on my front yard. They'd go on Facebook and we had like the United Nations at 11 o'clock at night playing soccer. And I'd go out and play goalie because that's about all I was ever good at it. But it was just fun to be able to do stuff with my kids and I think enjoy it. And, that's the biggest change that I noticed. The one I think in a negative way is that when I came home, my wife did not want my kids to feel like they had a sacrifice. So we had a rule: I never say no to books or sports. So my kids were playing so many different sports, and of course, four different sports. And she tried to do that all, take them to all of it, so they wouldn't have to sacrifice. And that took a toll on her, and she gained weight while I was away. So what happened when I came home, I saw her as beautiful, but she didn't feel that as good about herself. So what did I try to do? I tried to sign for her birthday. I'm going to sign you up at a gym. I'm going to, do all these things. And she wasn't at that place. And I was trying to force that on her. So if anything, I was treating, I wanted to give back for the sacrifice I made. But I was in a place that enabled me to do that, and she wasn't there yet. And I try to force that on her. And that, I think, because I got this once in a lifetime lottery opportunity, I wanted to give back in some way. And that just wasn't right because I was trying to push. And, there's something called stages of change. It's what helps me be a better physician. And some people are what I pre-contemplate. If that's not a priority for you, you have to respect that. You can keep revisiting it, but people don't know that their knees hurt because of their weight. Some people don't make that connection. You could try to make that connection until something bothers them enough to be ready to change. But my wife still was a mother of 4 and working. And I think I had to wait till she was ready to do that. And now we're really on the same page doing so many fun things together. But that was I think I treated my family or my wife different rather than the other way around.
Okay, I'm going to pivot us into what the internet is talking about. Okay, so we have 3 questions that all kind of go in with question number 1 is, tell me your thoughts on the trainers. So one person said, do you still talk to your trainer from the show? What are the trainers like? And how many days a week did you see them or the other trainers? So I'm going to start because you guys are so nice and I'm not going to be nice. So I come onto the show late. Everybody on set is just absolutely upset. They're upset. They've been away from their family maybe for 3 months. It'd been a long time. And here comes these 2 little, both Jaron and I are both in our 20s, both blonde and tiny and uninjured. And it was annoying as heck for them, I'm sure. So we're sitting down and I ask Bob, because all I know is like, hey, look at this hot beefcake. Like, whoa, this guy's hot. So I just asked him, hey, you got any kids? I don't know. I'm nervous. And he looks at one of his contestants and he says, you can tell her. So he wouldn't even talk to me. The entire time we were on set, he refused to even talk to me. But I didn't know he was gay. But also gay people can have kids. I didn't think that was a crazy question. I mean, obviously I was just like sweating and nervous and trying to spit something out. So anyway, Bob never talked to me, never liked me. I had Kim. Kim was as sweet as a button, so sweet. I've never talked to her since the show. I do follow her. I think her account's wonderful. It's very similar to what you guys have said. She pushes, protein, whole foods, exercise, sunlight, the good stuff, And one more thing I just want to throw in there that has nothing to do with trainers. I know people, including myself, who were doing all the good stuff for all those years and not having weight loss, in fact, having weight gain. When I lost the weight, all that work was there. All of it was there. So even if you're struggling with your weight, all of that work you're doing is worth it. I just wanted to throw that little plug in there. So, okay, now you guys tell me what you guys think about the trainers.
Okay, I had Bob and Jillian. I had Bob in the beginning, and then once we split into teams, I was put on Jillian's team. And Bob was I loved him, and he's good to look at. I'd be like, ooh, he'd be like, stop. So, he was very supportive of me in the beginning. And it was almost like Jillian was like, she didn't want to train me because she didn't think that I was pushing hard enough. And honestly, I wasn't. I was like scared to push through that next level. And so I would stop and I would, I fell off the treadmill, that whole thing. And so she kind of like gave me to Bob for a while, and he really took me under his wing and like was loving on me and super supportive and training me. And then we split into teams, and I was on the black team and Jillian was our trainer. And then that's when she really like took me over, and she was like, she's mine now, and so I truly do love both of them because they both helped me like so much, and in different ways too, where Jillian would like scream in my face. I don't think Bob ever yelled at me. Maybe once when we were in Texas, and I just was like, he wanted me to do like a handstand and do push-up, and I was just like, I can't. I was just exhausted, and he was like, do it, and I did. Sometimes I need tough love, apparently. So he was wonderful. Jillian was wonderful. Do I still talk to her? No, but after my season, they actually had asked me to come back on, and I had regained quite a bit of weight. And so production called me, was like, hey, we want to have you come back on for another season, make a bunch of videos for us and stuff. So I did, and I had some like trauma come up. I didn't realize, again, like, so crazy once you really start tapping into your emotions. And so I reached out to her and emailed her, and this had been like years since I'd been on the show, a couple of years at least, and she will always respond to me. So I have not talked to her in years. I have love for her for everything she did for me. But as far as like who she is now, I'm like, I'm good. We don't agree on much anymore. So yeah, I love them. I love them both.
So I had a very rude introduction to Jillian because I didn't watch the goddamn first year. So what happened is we had our weigh-in. So we're in our t-shirts, shorts, and flip-flops. They put me in the dunk tank to weigh me, and the thing broke. How embarrassing. It hit me in the back. So I'm feeling horrible already and embarrassed about this. And then all of a sudden and we had just found out, I think not long before that, it was men versus women. Now I'm a women's health specialist. I have 4 daughters. So who do you think I talked to the first couple of days? It was all the women. I hardly knew the guys. And then they go, great news. It's men versus women. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going home. And, but anyway, so we're all in flip-flops, t-shirt, in the gym. And all of a sudden you hear a megaphone, everybody start running. And so everybody starts running. Well, I had a bad leg. This is even before my DVT. I had my ankle, bad ankle reconstructed. So my roommate, Nick, the comic, he looks at me, he says, don't run, just bullshit, don't worry about it. So I'm limping down this hill, and Jillian's on top of this like clock tower with her megaphone yelling, and Bob starts taking the girls up some mountain, and she starts telling us to run. And the first thing she says, which one of you have any disabilities? And I raised my hand. She said, what? I said, my ankle reconstructed. How long ago? I said, I don't know, 15 years. Oh, that ain't a problem. She said, and then she looks down and she says, who the F has you guys in flip-flops? You got 2 minutes to go put sneakers on. And then I'm like, I didn't come on this show to get injured. I'm like, fuck this. I'm going, and I don't know. We were on the Hummingbird Ranch. So it wasn't stairs. It was like rocks you had to climb to get to your room. And I just took my sweet ass time, and I came. And then very soon after that, I think she looked at my leg and realized that there was, and then after that, she just started adapting everything for me and became extremely supportive. She never told me to starve myself. Her thing was, eat 2,000 calories one day and 1,500. She always thought, try to fool your body. She never said anything about what food I made for myself. I mean, nothing, certainly never advocate. I drank tea. I wasn't even a coffee drinker, never pushed me to do caffeine, anything that I thought, I just would not have. I'm just saying on my season.
You're ruining all the future questions, Jeff. I'm just kidding. Keep going, Dr. Jeff.
I wouldn't know.
I know I have stuff to speak on that, but go ahead.
So
Keep
after I got voted off, before the finale, those few months, I heard she was promoting her book and she was going to be in New Jersey. We weren't supposed to have any contact. So what are they going to do? Sue me now? So I surprised my wife and we went to Hazlitt somewhere in New Jersey where she was promoting, and I surprised her, and I think she so appreciated that. And about the next season, she called me crying because that's when they had screwed her with the contract. They had hired this other person, I forgot her name, and
Cam.
They knew that she was not going to accept, because we were waiting to go into the Cheesecake Factory in our season. It was going to film us going out to a restaurant, and she got off the bus during that hurry up and wait, 2 hours on the bus, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs at the producers because she had made her own exercise video, and they were upset because they wanted her to do the Biggest Loser exercise video, and so they were furious with her. Well, they screwed up. That wasn't in her contract. So they decided they were going to get rid of her the next year. And that's when they had hired this person. So when she came 4 days before filming, they handed her this contract she was like, I'm not signing this. I'm like, that's okay. We already hired somebody. And so we had a long talk, and we kept in touch for, I don't know, maybe a year or so after that, but it's not her fault. We just lost touch. And, yes, our Paul, as a reproductive health specialist, we are definitely not the same politically. And I think watching the season with the issue with the caffeine pills, that really upset me, and I think I put that in my quote. And I think, to be fair, I wish I would hear her side, but I just remember watching on the show what she said. She didn't deny it, but maybe they edited it, whatever. So maybe I should have been a little less judgmental. And also, when Bob said she didn't reach out to him, I just thought that was so, I didn't ever think they were friends. Real quick about Bob. I hated working out with Bob because he was doing yoga, and I'm sorry, I never had flexibility. So I absolutely hated, and I'm too ADD to tolerate yoga or the spin bike. And and he would take the seat off, and there's nothing worse than getting that tube up your ass, when you're trying to, and because I wasn't strong enough to do that. And so I hated working out with Bob, but we became friends, and I gotta put some drama in here, or some secrets, right? Tell all. He came to me one day and he goes, I think I have a hernia. And I said, why? He says, I got this pain in my groin. And I said, well, you should go see Dr. H. And he goes, no, I don't really like Dr. H or trust him. And he said, do you mind examining me? And I'm like, okay. So we went into the pantry, closed the door. I got one of the gloves, and I got on my knees and I did a hernia check on him. And all I could think of is, somebody opens that door with the camera, I'm going to have a lot of screaming to do. But anyway, so that was my, So if you want to hear, tell all, or, so that was my introduction. And it wasn't a hernia. Let's put it that way. So
that was a good story.
Good. Someone alert TMZ, please. That was so good. I was wondering why we had Cam on our season and where was Jillian.
Wow.
That is so interesting. And that is, you know what you brought up. Wait, but Ashley, well, if you want to make a comment, go ahead.
Oh no, I love that. I love that story. I could so see him asking you to do that. Yeah. Without any hesitation.
And the physician as me didn't think anything of it. I'm in a pantry on my knees.
Yeah.
And I will say, he was not, neither one of them were a fan of Dr. H. I love Dr. H. No, love him.
My next question is, what are your thoughts on this feud?
So
I'm going to go last.
So I'm going to just tell you, my introduction to Dr. H wasn't the best. So they had us sequestered, and then we had to do the physical. And he says to me, he introduces himself, and I see a picture of the Oakland Raiders. I didn't know he had written book that I guess led to Any Given Sunday. And he goes, yeah, I was the Oakland Raiders team doctor. I was Dr. Lyle Alzado's doctor. And I looked at him, I said, I wouldn't brag about that. Didn't he die from steroid overuse? So that was my first thing is, wait, this guy is responsible for that. And we started talking, and then he goes, I know you. You're pretty nationally recognized for your work in contraception. And he goes, why do you want to go on this show? Aren't you going to be embarrassed? And he looked at my leg. He goes, you got a bad leg. And do you know what they do? I said, no, I didn't see the first season. He says, I don't know if you're going to be able to manage this physically. You're much older. You got a bad leg. And, and he says, but why do you want to do this as a physician? And I said, you know what? I'm already embarrassed. I said, if this is going to help role model for other patients, then it's worth it. And I think that convinced him to clear me to go on the show. But once I got on the ranch, he was nothing but prioritized our health. And I was a physician. I know better. And he came back and said, your kidney function's going up. You need to sit out. And I'm like, I can't sit out. I got wrapped into this. And he made me sit out for quite a few days in mat. And then I took a step back and said, wow, this guy really cares. They checked our blood. He would sit down with me. He says, I don't think you're getting enough calories. And I had to show him what, just so you all know, the way we tracked our calories is we'd write it on a little piece of paper. We had a book called, I think I still have it, called Calorie King. We'd look it up, throw it in a salad bowl. That was the tech that we had to track our calories. But I had a little book and I would show him, but he really cared. And and a lot of my fellow contestants would second guess him. He wanted him to take medicine to prevent gout. And they would ask me first, because they really trusted me. But he always had our best interests in mind, and I had nothing but love for him. So I'm sorry, I just had to get that out.
That's perfect. Okay, Ashley, what are your thoughts on Dr. H?
I adore him. I absolutely love and adore him. He would come to the ranch and he would be like, Ashley, why are you only eating 800 calories? And I'm like, well, because Jillian told me to eat 800 calories and I just do as you will not maintain this. He's like, you need to eat at least 1400 or 1200 at the least. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Never did. And of course he was right. He knows his stuff. But as far as like tracking calories, like you brought up, we did have the Calorie King book, but by our point, we had the body bugs on our arm that would track our calories. And then we had the system where we could get on the computer and log it. That's all we could do on the computer was log our calories. And that was it.
The bugs we had were the horse flies from the ranch.
So I have and still have a great relationship with Dr. H. I know I could reach out to him at any time and he would respond and help me any way he can. And I just adore him. And I think he was represented well on the docuseries. I think he did a great job. And I knew that him and Tracy were friends because I had done the triathlon in San Francisco with a bunch of Biggest Losers afterwards. And he came with him and Tracy ran together and stuff. So, but I didn't know how close they were. So that was really nice to see. I loved that part of the docuseries. He's a wonderful human.
So season 3 was 50 contestants, one from every state. And I represented North Dakota. 36 of us were sent home. 14 stayed on the ranch. Whoever lost the most at home got to come back. Our hopes and dreams are smashed. Then we get shuttled on over to this boot camp with Dr. H, Cheryl Forberg, and the psychologist, which was a woman. I don't remember her name. And they gave us our calories. They told us to break it up. They told us to exercise and break the exercise up in the day and gently walk in between. And they gave us this plan. They gave us support meetings. And I didn't realize our season was him saying, listen, I got a plan too, guys. And them wanting to give it all to the trainers. And it was his time to show, no, I got a plan too, guys. You should listen to my plan. I got a really good one. And when you look at it, Jaron and I did amazing. And so did the 36. The 36 did amazing. They brought 6 of us back. It was really close. So the top 6 were all doing as good or better than the people on the ranch at home under Dr. H's plan. And he said, Adrian, I don't really want you going back on. I'm really worried for you. I think this is going to destroy you. And he was right. Another thing he was way right about was when I met him and he was doing all the evaluations, he said, part of the reason you eat is because you're so lonely. And it just really struck me that he could see me so well. And so one of my biggest regrets in all of the Biggest Loser stuff is that I feel like I let him down. That is my biggest regret, because in between the filming and the finale, I actually got pulled over with an open container in my car. I was going to college, and that's kind of a common thing in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Not to play it off, not a cool thing to be doing. So embarrassing and awful. But anyway, I just feel like I really let him down. So anyway, I'm going to reach out to him soon and just let him know, hey, I changed a few things and I still am a big fan. And thank you for all you did to change my life. So I'm a big Dr. H fan. I feel like they should have let him be more apart. And he wanted to be.
Absolutely. And you know, he had me come back. I came back season 4 to talk to the contestants, and it was really great because I got to tell them almost similar what Dr. Hogan did, but in a different way about, you know, when the lights go off, you know, reality sets, and you might need to say goodbye to people who are enablers. And, you know, I tried to give them some reality check, but it was so nice. And then he took me out for dinner. He asked me if I'd be interested to come in and work at his practice. And he goes, oh, I have patients like Paris Hilton. I'm like, pass. But I, like I said, just tremendous respect for him. And he reached out to me just a few years ago when all these lawsuits were going out. And I said, you just say the word and I will be out. And I would testify, at least for my season, what I did and didn't see. And like I said, total respect for the way he prioritized over, you know, what other people's priorities were.
That is so interesting. He hired at least 2, if not more, alumni in his practice. So like, he didn't just like care about us. Like, he literally cared about us like enough to like bring them in. Yes. Okay. So somebody asked, was Sandy the medic? Sandy was the medic, right?
He was he was like our medic trainer. Yes. Like what did we call him? Dr. Jeff, do you remember?
So I don't remember him. So I'm going to argue that I don't know if he was there season 2. I apologize, Sandy, if you were, but I don't remember. I remember on the alumni page, people always giving him a shout out. I would think, because I was, you know, got to be really close to a lot of I told you they get upset because all the cameramen got to be my friends and the people that would do the PAs. In fact, one PA before he left, he wanted to interview me and they promised he would. And then it was his last day and they had taken everything down. I said, well, I'm not doing another interview unless you set it up, because my word is my bond. And I made him reset everything. So I got to be close to everyone, and I don't remember him. So
you would remember him. You would remember him if he was on your season.
I'm pretty sure he was not there season 2.
He was absolutely wonderful. I guess he was like our sports trainer. He would, like, after every workout, or he was there for everything, every challenge, taping our ankles, every workout in the gym with the trainers. When the trainers weren't there, he was in his office. We would go to the office and he would ice our knees. I mean, he was like not only like caring for us on like a professional sport level, but like also a shoulder to like cry on. He would always be like, you hang in there, kid. Like all this stuff. We just had the best time with him. I absolutely love and adore him.
We need him on this show, because I guarantee he's behind the scenes.
Oh, he probably knows a lot.
He was definitely there season 3. He had like this little house next to like the pool, and that's where you went to get taped. Like, anything's wrong with you, go get taped. You got a headache, go get taped. You got tons of cramps, go get taped.
Yeah.
You feel like you're gonna throw up, go get some tape.
Yeah.
He was like the end all everything, because it was difficult to actually communicate with the people off the set, like the doctor and stuff like that.
But don't you feel like people don't realize, this is what I said on a different podcast I did earlier or last weekend. I said, people don't realize like how injured we get, and they don't show it. Like I had, after one challenge, I had a blister that was the entire pad of my foot. Huge, that they had to cut out. So it was just like raw flesh, and then they had to pad it, wrap it, and I had to go to the gym and work out like normal, running on the treadmill, running on it, and they don't show any of that stuff. And I had knee issues. Like there was a lot of stuff they never showed. So yeah, I find that interesting that they don't ever talk about your injuries.
Yeah. We do have a couple questions. I don't know if you wanted to talk on injuries at all, Jeff. Dr. Jeff, did you have any injuries?
I came there, I came there injured. That was my baseline. I remember doing a lot of the taping of my fellow contestants because I'm positive they did not have a train. It sounds like
They must have realized they needed Sandy when you were there.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, there's so many things that people don't realize. I mean, we never had a nutrition dietitian. We had somebody come give us a talk on fiber. It was a horrible talk on fiber, like 15 minutes or something. Never had a dietitian there. We cooked our own. We didn't have a chef. We cooked our own foods. We would order stuff. The PAs would get. There was one pasta I wanted that Jillian said no. There was nothing that I asked for that they didn't get for me. And we cooked our own foods. I mean, I would make this 4-egg white omelet in the morning, and I like to eat before I work out. Oh, my colleagues couldn't do that; they would throw up, so they worked out and then ate. And then we started cooking before the weigh-in. We got in this habit of cooking for us. I made this turkey chili everybody loves, so I would cook that for everybody before weigh-in, and then we would cook for each other. But there were a lot of, and then most of the workouts were on our own. That we would just do stuff on our own. Mostly, there was an ellipticals, treadmill. What am I missing? An exercise bike. I mean, we only used the fancier equipment when the trainers were there. And I don't know about you, but so the rumor is that they got the Hummingbird Ranch from the owner of Westwood One, and he was getting a divorce from his wife who wanted to use it as an equestrian ranch. And so behind her back, he signed this contract with NBC. So she was furious when she sees all these 14 fat people on her ranch. So she made it that we couldn't use the pool. If we went anywhere near the horses, she would sue us. And it was really interesting. But when she wasn't there, we would use the pool. But so much of the equipment we did was just, and then when my leg started getting better, I couldn't even use the treadmill in the first couple of weeks. Then I'd go on these 3-hour hikes in the mountains. And Jillian had bought us iPods, and which, there were a lot of things she did for it. Got us new running shoes, Camelbacks, a lot of things she really cared about us.
What? We didn't get any of that stuff.
But the funny thing is, I would wear these earbuds, and I would be walking with this thing, and there would be a rattlesnake trying to warn me, but I'm too busy wearing this thing. And he's like, what the hell? And I'd have to take a walking stick to kind of move him off the road. But I'd go on these 3-hour hikes. So a lot of the stuff when I came back from the show, I was able to do because it wasn't a lot of fancy equipment, things like that. What we couldn't do was get, 8 hours, 6 hours of exercising. That was the thing that wasn't realistic.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. You have so much juicy stuff. Ashley, bring it to us. I'm just kidding. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys have watched the previous episodes, but in the last episode, we brought up the fact, and Dr. Jeff, you may want to close your ears, that there were hookups on set. And I'm wondering if that happened on season 9. I know for a fact it happened on season 2 in a closet.
Did it happen on season 9? I don't know. I mean, I met my husband on the show. So, yeah. Well, I will say, like, when you work out that much, and Dr. Jeff, the libido is like through the roof. So yes, there were several hookups. There were 2 marriages on our season of people who met on the show. Oh yeah, people were hooking up for sure.
So for HIPAA reasons, I will not share. I'm sorry, everybody, but I will not share. But yes, there were. But what was really cute is I know that, there were certain, even though it was men versus women, we had a lot of respect for several of our female contestants. And then there were a few because of drama or other reason. And one thing I was very proud, we voted somebody off because of the drama, not because they were the biggest threat. And I was very proud of that because we wanted peace in the house. So there were a lot of differences that I found being with the guy, and again, as someone who always gravitated to working with women, it was just a different experience for me since I had, been in military school and baseball. But it was very interesting in terms of that dynamic. So
to turn it around a little, the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of Biggest Loser marriages, and they've lasted, and we have a whole bunch of Biggest Loser babies. Yeah. So just to turn it into something sweet and innocent, that's a fact.
Well, what was really funny is so Susie was not somebody that I think in the beginning we had a lot of respect for, and it was hilarious. They took us to some famous Beverly Hills hairdresser, and he cut her and styled our hair, and they did this old modeling. That's when I started realizing I was losing weight. You start the shirts that sizes they were putting on. But anyway, Matt refused to get his hair cut. He was like, I ain't doing this bullshit. And he went back, and then he felt bad about it. And Susie was a hairdresser, and so she offered to cut his hair. And it was like Samson and Delilah. She cut his hair, and after that, there was an attraction. And what was really cute, though, is it wasn't until I think before they went back that she asked him to kiss. I mean, so that was not the hookups, but I just thought that was amazing, where they started and where they wound up. And I just think that was great. I went out to visit them in Seattle when they had their first child. And it's just great to see them still going strong. But that was, and to see how many marriages, including yours, right, Ashley, from the show.
And we have a baby. He's 5 now. So we have a Biggest Loser baby too.
So, I think, I think we do better than The Bachelor and Bachelorette in terms of success.
Right? I've heard that.
And I think that could be true. Okay, somebody asked, was the majority of the exercise on the show cardio, or was there much weightlifting? This is such a good question because they make it look like it's all intense weightlifting. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
No, cardio only. I mean, we did do some weights, but it was not weightlifting. And actually, Jillian came to visit me at home before the finale, and we were home for like a month. So they wanted us to find a local trainer, and I did. And she was very fit and very muscular. And when Jillian came to train me, my trainer came. She wanted to meet my trainer, and she watched my trainer put me through a workout. And of course, she was having me lift weights and stuff because, hello, if you want to maintain your weight, that's what you do. And she pulled me aside and she was like, fire her now. She was like, no, that is not. She's like, I don't want you lifting weights. I don't even want you to look at a weight. Yeah. So I did, and I found my other wonderful trainer who is also very fit and healthy and muscular, but she was a marathon runner. So she was cardio queen. And so she helped me get to the finale. So, but yeah, no, we don't lift weight. We didn't lift many weights. I mean, we did a little, but no, it was more body weight stuff. But it's a percentage game,
So we did not use the weight machines without Jillian there. And so I would say we probably used it 2 or 3 times a week, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I would do some stuff with free weights, but vast majority it was cardio, whether it was in the beginning, I could only use the bike and the elliptical, then later the treadmill, and then going on those hikes. And then they had that little exercise pool. And then when the owner's wife or ex-wife wasn't there, we got to use the regular pool. But that's basically, I really almost never did use any of the weight equipment unless Jillian was there. And I'd say that was 2 or 3 times a week. I will say for my own patients, I really advocate about 20% of your exercise should be weights because it helps maintain your muscle mass when you're losing weight. And it does, you get a slower burn, but you do burn less calories. But I think a lot of women don't get that advice to do any weights. And I think it has its role. You just don't have to do heavy weights, but there are things you could do to help maintain your muscle mass, especially if you're losing weight. So I think it should be part of an exercise program, a smaller part, and on the show, far and away, 90+% was aerobic activity.
Jeff, have you heard of Dr. Vonda Wright?
There's a little more than, maybe I was aware of, but anyway.
Can I ask you, have you heard of Dr. Vonda Wright before? She did a really great podcast on longevity, especially for women. She speaks a lot about women's health and stuff, and just how lifting weights and lifting heavy weights and moving your body in that way will help sustain your longevity. It's a wonderful podcast. I highly recommend everyone listen to it. But so that is a big focus of mine now, is weightlifting instead of just blasting cardio all the time. I probably do more weightlifting, but in a setting where it is cardio, but more weightlifting than I do cardio every week. I do get my cardio in there.
But I please supervise, because I get so many people, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be sexist, especially guys, we see the person who lifted before us and we don't even change it. We're like, oh, we could do that much. And then we do it and then tear something. But you want to be supervised to use it safely and correctly. And I just want to put an emphasis on that. But I think in an appropriate combination with aerobic activity and balance, so important as well. You know, like I said, I'm a little ADD for doing yoga and Tai Chi, but there's so much to be said for learning about balance, and not just holistically, but in terms of exercise. So I'm a big advocate for combining isometrics or weights with aerobic exercise for both genders or all genders.
So my journey on The Biggest Loser, Dr. H said to do at like an hour of cardio, and then in the separate exercise, a little bit more cardio, but always lifting. And so part of it every day had to be some lifting. And then when I left the show and I lost that 100 pounds after I gained the 170, after I lost 100 pounds, it was all marathon running. I did very little weightlifting whatsoever. Then, keto, carnivore. And carnivore is where I learned the importance of the weightlifting, and also that all the running that I had been doing was burning out my adrenals. So I no longer run unless it's sprinting. It's more walking. And now I follow, I don't know if you guys know the accounts Mind Pump and Dr. Tina Moore, and they're fabulous every day in brainwashing me and reminding me, and some might call it gaslighting, the repetitiveness of muscle is wealth, muscle is health, muscle is insulin sensitivity, muscle is what keeps us out of the wheelchair, and the importance of lifting 2 to 3 times a week. And people are so separate. I think some people do better if they lift less, but they do it every day. And some people do better if they do what they call the slow burn, where they just they're pushing it, but it's really slow and you only do a couple. Anyway, yeah. So the majority, we'd all vote though on the ranch was cardio.
For sure.
Uh-oh, I froze.
You're not frozen to me.
You're still moving.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry. It seems a little frozen. Okay. So next question. How did they handle sickness on the ranch?
I'll go. You don't get sick.
Go.
I mean, yeah, no, you don't get a day off. I remember I got really sick. I don't even know what it was. I had some kind of virus. And Bob was like, yeah, I don't care. You're coming. And I was like, but I really feel terrible. I feel terrible. He's like, I don't care. Sweat it out. So I came, and that's when he worked at, what was the gym he worked out in LA downtown? He used to take us over there for his spin classes. We do them on dark days. And he put us through, I think this was actually filmed. We were filming that day, but he put us through a terrible workout. And I was so sick. I don't even think it was brought up on the show that I was sick that day. And, but I did sweat it out. So he was right. I mean, the next day I felt better. Is there some truth behind that, Dr. Jeff? Because I will tell you, I am big about sitting in sauna. I have a home sauna. And since sitting in sauna, I got it last Christmas, that I've not been sick, and rock on wood. Sorry. I have not been sick, not one time. I maybe had something small for a day, but no, I've not, because I have really prioritized sweating. So yeah, we didn't get to be sick.
Before Dr. Jeff goes, I'm going to tell you what Dr. H said, because I only got sick when I was at home on his plan. He said, you got to keep going. And he's even on Dr. H's plan, he said, I needed to get the fresh air, stop inhaling my own air. And the fact that if I could just get any movement in, it's going to support blood flow around the body, which is going to help me get better quicker. So that was Dr. H's answer. All right, Dr. Jeff, what you got for us?
Oh, I don't think there's a black and white answer. I think the answer is you should certainly don't take it down a notch. And I think a lot of people would hide their sickness because they don't want to get voted off, and that wasn't someone else's fault. Nobody said, well, suck it. I didn't hear someone say, well, suck it up. But I do think if somebody was sick, they probably were going to let that get in their way. What would I tell a patient? I would tell them to get rest or take it down a notch. But I certainly think fresh air, I think, certainly in terms of prevention, if you're getting adequate sleep, if you're, doing good hand washing, there's a lot of things that are going to reduce your illness. If you have a higher metabolic rate, you're going to have a better immune system. So a lot of us, I think, did better because we were getting healthier, in all honesty.
That's
The
true.
one thing I will tell you that I was upset with Jillian is in my last week, why they were filming our show. They started filming another show. They would have Air Force wives and Navy wives, and then they would have couples. So simultaneously, while they were filming our show, they would have contestants that they were going to do like a fill-in, I guess, during sweeps or whatever, where these shorter things. And so they had a couples, and the Jillian came to me and said, they gave me this guy, I don't know, this goddamn guy, he hurt his calf and he can't work out with his fiance. Would you take her on one of your hikes? And I said, okay. So I went to take her, and she's hugging, and thanking me. And then she tells me she has a sinus infection, and I got sick that week. So I, was so upset that, here I try to do a good deed for Jillian and I got sick. And I just remembered she took us to her gym in LA. And I just remember I was working and I just couldn't finish and I just didn't feel well, but she didn't get mad at me or I said, I can't do it. And, that week I just knew I wasn't going to lose a lot of weight. And I still got the 2. I try to tell Adrian, don't give me the 2 pounds. I'm just not going to. I could just tell I didn't feel well, but I made myself right. I just prioritized, what I needed to do. And that is, I just couldn't work out. And never saw somebody, even Jillian didn't push me or when she realized, I didn't feel, maybe she felt guilty because she had asked me to do that. But
I can guarantee if we had different contestants on here, this is a big opportunity for them to make someone look weak and to say, this is why you're overweight, because the show kind of did do that a lot. What do you guys think when you look back? Have you guys watched any of the episodes? I personally find it really cringe. Well, I find it 2 different things. One, I find it highly inspiring. Like, get off your butt, Adrian. Why aren't you walking while you watch this? So I'm inspired, but I'm also horrified. What are your guys' thoughts as you guys look back at the episodes, how they talk to people, how they formatted things?
I honestly, I guess it depends. How do I phrase this without pissing anybody off? I feel that everyone is different and you can be in the same environment and have 2 completely different experiences depending upon your personality, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And what works for me is like, I get pushed by someone screaming at me like that. I was like, okay. And then it would help me break through. But I know that doesn't work for everyone. And there were times that I would tell Jillian, like, I just can't take you screaming in my face anymore. Like, can you give me a break? Like that's not working for me right now. But when I go back and look at like some other episodes, I do feel like not really the trainers. I feel more production, like Todd Lubin. I don't know if he was on when you were on. He pissed me off all the time. He would come to me after being the woman. I still hold my record of having lost the most weight of any woman on the show. And he would come to me week after week, thank you, and would say, do you think you've done enough? Do you think you're doing enough? And I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean? I'm like yes, I do think I'm doing enough. But he would always plant this seed in my brain of like, am I not doing enough? He doesn't think I'm doing enough. And it was like a mind fuck, And so I would push myself harder, but that's clearly not on camera. But as far as anything I've watched back, I guess no, I don't really like see anything that horrified me. I feel like sometimes that tough love doesn't work for some and it works for other people. So I'm not sensitive in that way where I'm like, that was terrible. I don't know.
yeah, I didn't have I had no delusion. I knew it was a game show. There were things I didn't like as a musician. I wish they kept everyone on their ranch till the end and then had a winner, but that's not going to have enough. It's not going to get ratings. And so I think I was realistic. I hated the temptation challenges. It's funny. My wife watched an episode before I went, and she said, "Whatever you do, promise me you won't do a temptation challenge." I didn't even know what you're talking about. So if you watch my season, I refused to do all. They hated that, but I never did a temptation challenge out of respect for my wife, and it's something I'm very proud that I didn't do. But some of them were just terrible. And especially when we first walked in to the ranch and they had that room, they had asked us what our favorite dishes were. And that's when Suzanne's like licking the chocolate. And I mean, they did that, I mean, that was the one thing that I thought was just to humiliate, people. I will tell you, they try to do product placement in our year, and I'll never forget. They wanted Jillian to film us. She was supposed to make something with Jello or whatever, and we ragged on her because she was such a horrible cook that they never used it. So we had very little but some seasons I would watch, and it was like watching an infomercial.
Yes.
And that was the thing that I think would have driven me crazy to watch, in all honesty. But of course, the difference between what really happened and in terms of the production time, they weighed us in the morning. The scale wasn't real, but our reaction was real. But then, like you said, they would do 2 or 3 takes, and but there was nothing that was. There was nothing that was a lie. There were just things that I don't think the people in the audience knew. But like, they drew our blood every week. And so, to make sure no one was cheating, they took all my medication away when I got there. There was no caffeine pills. Now I only drank tea. People were allowed to drink coffee, but I didn't see any of that. And I think I was close enough to the contestants that I think they would have shared that. I would never tolerate it. And one thing I want to say is, after the second weigh-in, they hated Nick. Nick was my roommate. He was the comic. So having a comic and a women's health in the same room, you can only imagine. But him and I became friends. And Jillian hated him because he wanted to do things his own way. He didn't want, and they just would have screaming matches at each other. And I think the producers had it with him. So after the weigh-in, and he lost a lot of weight the second month, they came up to me and they said, "We want to know, what is he doing? What is he taking? How is he cheating?" And I looked at him and I said, "I'm telling you straight out, he is not." I said, "He smoked weed every fucking day." I said, "He's not smoking weed, and he's drinking green tea. That's what he's doing." And but they wanted me, and I'll be honest, if I had seen someone doing something not right, I would have first said something to them, and if they didn't change, I would have called them out for that, because I could not have tolerated that as a physician. But they checked our blood, their urine, at least once a week. I can only speak for myself, so maybe they didn't want me to know, but I don't know. I just was so close to my fellow male contestant and several of the female contestants. I can't imagine that if that was going on, I wouldn't have known about it. And so that's just, I'm going to speak to my season, and I wasn't hovering over my fellow teammates 24 hours a day, but I was close to pretty much all of them. And that's what I can say. But just the fact that producers, and now of course they hated him, but they were really concerned that he was cheating. And so at least what I can say, and I think I would have picked up on that didn't happen on my season that I'm aware of.
Ashley, I want you to go into it, but I just want to say, if there was any cheating on my season, they wouldn't tell me, because I was on the out and out. So I don't think anything else happened. I don't recall peeing in a cup ever. I don't know if they were checking that at all, but
Really?
people were definitely playing water weight games.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, I didn't see any cheating. It was pretty much just, but here's the thing that's also crazy about the show. If you're a cycling woman, you should not be competing with a man, because during your cycle, you can have inflammation and they're going to make you look like, what a loser.
Yes!
Every single human being has plateaus in a weight loss. And instead of agreeing that there's a plateau, they said, "Look at this loser. You must have ate too much this week. You didn't step it up." Okay, so Ashley, I want to hear all the dirt, because you were on a later season. Did you do drugs? Were they offered to you?
I sure did. No, not on the ranch. I did not. Jillian had me do shots of espresso. And I think in the beginning that was not allowed, but by my season, they didn't care. I know Dr. H did not like that. I think he even said that in the docuseries, he didn't want us having espresso or caffeine. And so she would have me do 2 shots of espresso before we went up to the gym for our trainer workout that was on camera. And then when I was home for the finale, she sent me her caffeine pills that I think was sold in Walgreens. She sent them to my house and instructed me to take them. So I did. But as far as people cheating, yes, I was so oblivious when I came on the show. I just was really honestly there to lose weight. Everybody was so focused on the money. Not everyone, I guess. Our season, we all got along pretty well. There was a couple, that we were like, but like for the most part, we didn't play the game a lot, and production would get mad about that. And with the temptation challenges too, they hated that we were like, no. But as far as people cheating, yeah, people cheated all the time, and I was so oblivious until the very end. I didn't know people were, because we peed in a cup every way before every weigh in, and if we were dehydrated, we had to drink Gatorade before we weighed. Um, but I did not realize that people were peeing in the cup and then dipping it into the toilet and getting water in it. And so I was like, everyone's passing. And then I never failed one anyway, but I was hydrated and weighing hydrated. But I was so oblivious. They were doing that. They were like sweating out, of course, which I didn't do until finale. I didn't realize like to do that. I didn't play sports. I swam. I was a swimmer. We didn't sweat out as a swimmer. So people were doing that. I think there was talk about Michael doing like a bunch of fiber at one point, but as far as any other like drugs, no. I mean, no.
Yeah. So let me clarify something. I'm talking about doing any drugs or appetite suppress. That I did not see that happen. Yes, did people wear sweats and turn up the temperature and try to work out before their weigh-in that morning? Yes, did people go and buck naked and not drink any water until after their weigh-in? Yes, but nobody told them they did that on their own. That was their decision. Did they sit on the toilet until right before the weigh-in? Yeah, I mean, to get every little ounce out. Yes. Yeah, just to clarify something in our season, because there was a claim that the guys took a bike and would go in the sauna and use it. So before our first weigh-in, Matt was a wrestler and he was telling us, tricks he knew to sweat. So in their room, so Nick and I had our own room and two of the other contestants, but all the other men were in one. I think 5 of them were in one room. It was a big room and had a big steam room. And they turned it up, they turned the temperature up, and they took one of the exercise bikes and put it in the room. And we were going to take turns doing that. Everyone put their sweatshirts on. Within, I don't know, 15 minutes, the producers or the PAs came in and said, you got to stop. It's an unfair advantage. The girls, and they took the bike away, turned down the thermostat. So that didn't even last 15 minutes. So I just want to give that. Now, did something ever happen after that? I don't know, because I didn't live in that room, but I'm just telling you for that lasted literally 15 minutes, and they put a quash on that right away because they thought that was an unfair advantage. But did people not drink water until they got weighed? And then when they had immunity, they drank a couple gallons. And then I think it embarrassed the producers when Matt gained 12 pounds one week because he had immunity and lost 25 pounds the next week, because people at home were like, what the F? They didn't understand what was happening. And I think that was embarrassing, but I don't blame Matt for that. Was playing. I don't consider that cheating. I just think that was stupid that they didn't think to put some rules on that. There is something when I did go home that did bother me a lot watching. When somebody would lose I tell my patients, 1 to 2 pounds a week is great. I mean, I try not to get them to focus on the scale, but I'm just saying, if you look at most weight loss programs, you're aiming for maybe 1 or 2 pounds. People would lose 4 pounds and they'd be crying. I thought that sent a horrible message. And again, there's a lot of things I'm not upset as a physician or embarrassed. I couldn't send my patients to Beverly Hills for 10 weeks. It wasn't realistic. But the one thing that bothered me is that people would lose in a real week, not a Biggest Loser week. And like in a real 7 days, they'd lose 4 pounds and they'd be crying and upset with themselves. And what a horrible message that sent. So that was something that I didn't realize until I was home watching the kind of message that sent out to people, especially people who really struggle. 4 pounds is absolutely incredible. But I don't know what you all felt about that, but that.
Thank you for saying that. And not only were the games being played, but on my season, the weeks were not often a week. And it wasn't I personally don't think it was a deceptive thing. I think it was getting camera crews lined up.
Production, yeah.
Nighttime, you have to film certain things at certain times a day, getting the sets, getting the actors, because reality is Caroline Ray and Allison and the trainers, they were all actors. And so having to arrange all of that took time, and it just was really difficult to get that done in 7 days.
We could be naive, but the production works really cheap. And I agree. I don't not that think that was to make us look like we lost more weight. I really think it was for the reason you said. And it didn't give anyone else. I mean, we're getting that same extra time. So I choose to.
It did make good TV.
Yeah.
And then later on, they did an actual season where they tried to stick to the 7 days, and they would go on the scale and everybody would be crying and like upset. And the production was like, what are we going to do with its real weeks?
I have a question, because you brought up how before the weigh-in we would like just really like get every ounce of water out of our body, like all this stuff. Who in this room weighed naked?
I
No,
did
either one of
not.
you?
No, but I heard that was a thing in the later seasons. And had that been a thing, you better believe I would have weighed in naked.
Yes.
So just
We
to,
did.
I want whoever's listening to know this was all legit. So in terms of the weigh-in, we would go in the morning. Now I heard
Not on the scale that they're filming.
No. So
Well, no, they were filming us.
right. So I just
Yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
know
like,
different seasons. The way it
footage
would
for
work
TV.
is the girls came down in their bra and underwear, and we came down in underpants, and they would face our back to the scale so we couldn't see it. They would weigh us, and someone would be filming it because apparently in season 1 somebody questioned it, so they had somebody actually film it. The reaction on the Biggest Loser scale, which is not real, was real because we didn't know our weight until we got on it. So that was all genuine.
That's true.
Unless it was the second or third take, but that was all genuine. But in our season, we knew, let's say they were going to weigh us in at 10 in the morning. So we were getting up at 8 and working out for 2 hours, or people were sweating or doing other things and not drinking anything until right after they weighed in. But that weigh-in was in the morning. I heard, I think on later seasons, they didn't really have that. They did it much earlier. They didn't have that time to work or sweat out more. So
no, they did ours in the early morning. We had early morning, like they woke us up and it's like time to weigh. And I would just wear a robe.
Yeah.
And I would turn my back and I would just say, whoop.
So Nick being Nick, he's the first one who just dropped his drawers right in front of everybody.
Every ounce counts.
No, he did it more. He did it more out of spite. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Talk though about, you guys are not you two, but the audience. Imagine, you're on a weight loss journey. You're kind of afraid every morning. What is it going to say? Imagine the scale fear in this situation where you don't know what you weighed in, and this number, even if it's a fluke, even if the poop didn't come out, you're inflamed for a reason, you got your cycle, who knows? The scale is so fluky booky. It is. Mm-hmm. And you wait and you have to step up there in front of everybody. I wouldn't weigh in front of everybody today.
Yeah. No, thank you.
It's just such a scary thing.
It is a scary thing. And I don't know, I feel like the women's cycle thing too, they don't ever take into account. Because I remember I had a 4-pound loss one week, and they're like, Allie was like, of course, just doing her job. She was great too, by the way. She like had us with her family on Thanksgiving, like would come and work out with us on dark days. Allison Sweeney. She was awesome. But I remember she looked at me and she's like, do you think you did enough this week? And I just wanted to be like, I'm literally like on my cycle right now. I'm retaining water, girl. Like, yeah, check me next week when I drop all this water weight.
Well, I know pretty much all the girls on our season stopped getting their period pretty quickly. Now, wow. I will tell you, because it's funny that you said Jillian told you to eat 800 calories, because she would make fun of Bob because he had them eating 800 calories, salads, and kombucha juice. And that drove me crazy because it's like, I never heard of it. It was nasty. If anyone had it, sorry. But I think it costs like $4 or $5 a bottle. And a lot of my fellow female contestants, I know they didn't have a lot of money. And there was no way they were going to the God knows where, the rural areas that they lived, and we're going to find kombucha juice. And so I thought what he was having to do was not very realistic, whereas what Jillian had us doing was. I think that was one of the differences. But because of their low calorie and their high intense exercise, very soon they told me they had stopped getting their periods. So, and that's why they started making them take calcium, which to try to preserve bone, which, really isn't effective, but that's what they were having them do for that reason.
This brings me to the 800 calorie rumor that Jillian is now denying, which is crazy because I've actually seen her on interviews with, like, I think it was Thomas DeLauer, where she said, "Oh yeah, I had them eating 800 calories and burning 3,000 calories, and nobody lost muscle. None of my contestants lost muscle," she said. But now she's denying ever having anybody on an 800 calorie, and she's showing emails of her telling people on when they went home to be eating 1,600 calories over vacation or whatever. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
The only thing I'm going to say, I'm just doing it because of chronological order, is in season 2, she had all the men, right? And I know for a fact, I'm getting older, but maybe I have selective memory, but I remember her thing was every day try to eat a different, you want to fool your body. That was her big thing. But it was 1,200 to 1,800 or 1,200 to 2,000, never less than that. And I remember she would mock Bob because he had them eating 800 calories and it was just salads and this kombucha juice. And she never, we were eating whatever we wanted. Her focus was calories and fluctuating them. So I think both things could be true, because maybe she just worked out with the guys, or maybe she adapted when she started working out with other groups. So I'm just saying both things could be true.
Well, I, for a fact, by her, was told to eat 800 calories. She said, "Do not listen to Dr. Hogan." She was like, "You're eating 800 calories, Ashley." And I was like, "Okay, I'll eat 800. And then once the production people were like, I think Dr. H was really putting his foot down about it. She's like, "Just log," because they would check our food logs, "Just log extra, but you're not eating extra." And to her, that was like, I thought she admitted that she was wrong about that. I didn't know she's denying it now. I hate to hear that, because I don't know, that was their magic sauce on my season. And I know seasons before and after, to eat 800 calories. And yes, she was like, we had, dark day was our high calorie day. And so we would eat on dark days. Did you guys see that? We would make, Michael on my season was Italian, and he always made, we called it victory pasta. And he made this huge pot of pasta with all this stuff in it. And we would just feast on high calorie days. And then that to them, and then we'd drop it back down the next day. So she did still push the, fluctuating of the calorie count, but no, 800. That's it. Don't eat anymore.
No, we had my turkey chili, which could made for an embarrassing weigh-in. I'm sure they had to mute the sound after everybody was eating turkey chili. But no, we would have like a group night, and people would take turns cooking. But then it became like a tradition toward the end where I was doing that before each weigh-in. But I don't remember. I just remember she said some days 2,000, some days 6, and that's what I would do.
That's actually not bad advice.
No, and that's, like I said, on my season, nothing about caffeine pills, nothing about 800 calories, and I remember I would make a shopping list, and they would go pick up whatever I wanted, and I would decide no one told me what to make for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I did that all on my own, or what to use as a snack. I started experimenting with things that I had never eaten before, and but no, I decided what I was going to have for breakfast. What was I going to,
same.
Thought that there was going to be, when you watch the show, you think there must be a chef, there must be a nutritionist sitting right there.
Asked me that.
All those things.
What did the dietitian tell me? I said no, and that I think may have been a little bit of a mistake. But at least when I was on, I thought Jillian was giving helpful, and then when Dr. H would come, I thought we were getting pretty sound advice.
We downhill after
to have a dietitian, but anyway, I think it probably changed when she started working with women and maybe getting more competitive. Who knows?
Yeah, she posted something the other day, and I was always wondering this, the Rachel Fredrickson thing, where they show the camera of Jillian and Bob, and they're just so shocked. And she said, not only did I never get the opportunity to personally work with Rachel Fredrickson in any capacity, I raised serious concerns both publicly and to NBC directly about contestant health and the condition of Rachel in particular at the finale. In response, I received a direct email from Paul Teledry, the chairman of NBC Entertainment. In the email, he made it clear that if I did not publicly condone the appearance of contestant Rachel Fredrickson at the show's finale, NBC would pursue legal action against me. I resigned from The Biggest Loser shortly thereafter. So many things were being pushed. And I wonder if that 800 calorie thing came from Jillian, or did it come from the producers, or...
And my understanding was that it came from her. She was like, this is the magic number. This is what works. And it was before my season, because she's like, this is what works to have you win and lose the most. I think we burned, I can't remember she wanted us burning like at least more 2 pounds a day, something crazy. I don't remember, on our body bug. So, and then eating 800. So the deficit was massive. And it worked. I mean, I lost a ton of weight, of course, but I also lost my hair and couldn't maintain when I went home. But also, again, like, although she told me that, we're all accountable for what we do. And I had the option to eat the calories. I didn't have to. She wasn't standing over me in the kitchen. I cooked all my own food. We all do. You know, picked my meals, and they would go to the grocery store for us. We would make lists. And she didn't approve something. She didn't want us having a lot of sugar, of course, and stuff like that. But like, we cooked our own food. So I could have said, yes, Jillian, I'll eat 800, and then eaten what Dr. Huizenga had said. So accountably, I chose to eat that. You know, whether I wanted to listen to her or not, I could have eaten more, you know? So I don't really blame her. I just, you know, I'm big on accountability. I don't blame her. I'm in control of my own choices.
Yeah.
The only thing she really pushed me on was exercise. She would yell at me for holding on because I had such I had so much instability. But she never punished, like said, if you hold on, we're going to all do it over. She never did that. The only time her and I fought is I never could jump rope. And this was toward the end. She was mocking me, and I can't do it. I can't. And I finally did it. I think I jumped rope like 10 times, and then I threw the jump rope at her and told her to go fuck herself. But for the most part, I think she really pushed me in a supportive way. There's 1 week after lunch, she said, we're going to go climb this mountain. And the mountain, the bushes had all been burnt in a fire. So they were really sharp. And we started walking up this hill, and the cameramen, who were really built, were with their 50-pound camera, were following us. And the director said, tell Jillian to stop right now. And the cameraman told her, and she said, well, F them. We're going to make it to the top. And we kept walking. Tell her, if you don't make her stop, you're fired. They told the cameraman then. And the cameraman like, hey, we're union. And they just kept coming with us. And Jillian stayed back with me. And she said to me, do you want to do this? You know, you can stay back. And I said, no, just promise me you're going to get me down alive and not leave me with a mountain lion or something like that. And she stayed back with me and helped me with all my fellow kids were way ahead. And when it got to the end, there was this big boulder that all my fellow contestants got on top of. And I said, I can't do it. I can't. And she said, put your leg on mine. Now, remember, it was 3 something at the time. And I put all my weight on her leg, and all my fellow contestants pulled me up while she pushed me. And I made it to the top of the hill. And they called it Dr. Jeff's Hill. And the fact that that's the kind of Jillian that I'll remember, pushing me, but never humiliating me. I'm just, as I remember it or choose to. But the fact that she did that, working at my level to get me to do that. And when I got voted off, we had one last workout, and I had never got to 10. I remember I couldn't even use the treadmill for the first 4 because of my leg. And she said, I'm going to get you. And she ran with me. And then on the treadmill, I got up to 10 miles an hour, which was, you know, I had never gotten over maybe 3. And just the things she did to push me in a way to empower me where I never felt forced, and not be scared to push myself. And for that, I'll ever be grateful. And that's the Jillian I choose to remember. Do I believe what happened? And it's funny because I was talking to Pete about this, and he had he said he loved what I wrote, except he thought I was too judgmental on Jillian. And I think in a way he's right. I don't know what happened. Maybe they edited it. All I remember is I watched that episode when they called out their team and gave them a 4-pound weight loss. she didn't deny giving the caffeine pills. She just said it's not any. I think it's not untrue that the caffeine pills were the same amount of caffeine as coffee. But the bottom line is, I remember on my season they were banned. Maybe that was different. Now she's got the proof. So maybe I shouldn't have been so judgmental, because I was just going by what I saw, and I thought it just validated a lot of about controversies that probably weren't true by that. And what Bob said about her not calling him, or and Pete's like, you don't know what was going on. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe she did text him and he didn't see it, and he might be right. So I thought I may have been a little too judgmental, but I can only go by what I saw. And the Jillian I saw in season 2 sounds different than maybe it was for other seasons. And I think we all have different experiences. So.
I agree. Jillian was a huge support to me, and I don't hate her. I don't anything. I blame myself for eating 800 calories. Now, was she in a position to lead us better? Yes, but I truly think she was, at the time, she thought she was doing best for us. I don't think she was purposely trying to starve us. She wanted us to succeed, and whatever it took to have me, because she really took me on. She yelled in your face the most, that means she loved you the most. And so I got screamed at a lot. And so she really took me under her wing, and I will forever be grateful for her for everything she did to me. She would break me down and then take me outside and build me back up again and support me. And if she told me to eat 800 calories, which she did, it was to keep me on there longer, because she was like, I need you to be here. You need to be here, and I need you to stay another week. So I need you to do this, this, and this. And I just did whatever she told me. And I'm not mad at her about it. I love her. I will forever love her and be grateful for the love and support she gave me. And I think she kind of does get a bad rap.
Yeah, nobody forced me. I mean, there's nothing I'm ashamed about that. I forced myself to get 8 hours of sleep. I was sleeping 2 to 4 hours at home. And that's why I think eventually I didn't need my CPAP. I would go and eat breakfast before I worked out, and I chose what I ate. There were things that I couldn't do. I didn't try to even use the treadmill until my leg got better. I didn't go on the hikes with my fellow. I worked within my lane, because my only competition was me. I never got wrapped in. The only thing, of course, is I would feel terrible if I didn't lose weight, because someone would get voted off. But once Pete got voted off, I'm just focusing on myself. And I think that, that's what I'm proud of. But I never felt intimidated. But of course, on the scale with the team, you didn't want to disappoint them. But there's nothing that happened that I'm ashamed of, or barriers that, to my family, and that I'm proud of.
So I have some friends who recently went on a reality TV show called RV Unplugged. It's a YouTube reality TV show, and they left there so exhausted. The filming was 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks. But they reminded me of what it's like to be on set. It is 24 hours a day. If you are resting, if you are doing dishes, someone might be scheming. Someone is walking and losing more calories than you are, and you are wasting time, and the game is 24/7. So that's one thing. And then number 2 is, when you say 800 calories, guys, that's the science that we've had for a long time. When we have bariatric surgery, they tell you eat 800 calories. They tell you to eat a half a cup to a cup per meal a couple times a day. That is what we've been told. And when we look at the show, the reality is, whether we hate it or not, I think the real hate needs to go on society, because society has these exact views that overweight people shouldn't be able to eat bread. Overweight people should never have cake. Overweight people can't control themselves. I think it actually dawns more a clear picture of society than it really does. I don't think Biggest Loser changed that. I think they were just showing a light on the reality of society.
There's studies that show that any patients with obesity, I don't say obese patients with obesity, you have a condition. It doesn't define you. But patients with obesity often eat less than people of normal weight. It's that their metabolic rate is so low for a lot of reasons, whether it's sleep apnea or other reasons. Their thermostat is pathologically affected. I mean, that's been well known for a long time. But of course, yes, we shame people. They must be eating a lot, and for a lot of patients with obesity, that isn't it. There's a lot of reasons why people either have always had obesity, or like me, I was in my 30s until I was normal weight until 30, about 30, in residency, I developed a lot of, working 100 hours a week, I developed a lot of bad habits Food became my drug to keep me. I didn't drink caffeine, so if food was my drug, we would all get together at 4 a.m. Who was having a worse night, and how would we socialize? We would eat, and then I'd come home too exhausted to exercise, and it just became a bad cycle. And yes, I could say it was part of doing residency, but a lot of my friends in residency didn't gain the weight. It's just that became my maladaptive behavior. And so we all have reasons and excuses, but in the end, and we all signed I mean, I didn't have any delusions about when I went on the show. And I'm sorry, as a physician, I don't have delusions of what their goal was. And yes, I wish they did things different. I hated the temptation. I hated voting people off, but that's the reality of the reality show. The one thing, and we've debated about this a lot, and if you look at a lot of Biggest Loser alumni, I was upset. And I didn't like when the producers said that NBC wouldn't pay for someone to do some support after. Let's be realistic. No, they couldn't afford, and it's not realistic to have somebody for 6 months or a year provide you free mental health and dietitian support. But what they could have done, even before Zoom, is virtual support. They could have called in and checked in on a phone call.
Like we did on season 3.
Exactly. They could have. There are things that they could have done on the cheap, done group of phone-ins where people could even share, because a lot of my fellow contestants went home to very dysfunctional environments. And I think even for just 6 to 12 weeks, that could have helped them. Would it kept them from getting divorced? Would they have still gained their weight back? But if one thing, there'd been one less controversy on the show. And yes, they couldn't have had it forever, and it's not their responsibility. I think somebody said, well, if The Bachelor, if you don't get married, do they have to follow you, until you find a wife? No. But I do think that was poor. I think it would have made them look better. I think people would have done better if they had done some type of follow-up when people went home, to make sure that they were, and then maybe they would attract and put some limits. If you lose X amount of weight, you risk being eliminated or something. I think that would have prevented what happened. I'm blanking on her name, that I think embarrassed the producers.
Rachel.
I think if there were things they could have done rather inexpensively, that at least in the short term would have helped. And I think it would have made one less excuse about blaming the show for things. So I think a lot of people still would have gained their weight, but I think it would have been less blaming the show for what they didn't offer. That's just my personal, but no, I don't think they had to do hand holding, but there are things they could have done that would have helped a lot of contestants readjust when they got home.
Yeah. So the final question I always ask everybody is, what are your biggest takeaways? But today I'm just going to say, what have we left off the table? What did we leave out that you want to share with the world about the show? And I'll go ahead and start, okay? And again, I'm just really emotional lately because I've had a really rough week. My 3-year-old put rocks in his ear, and we had to have surgery because we couldn't get them out. And then when we went to have surgery, we actually found a Lego in there. So it's been a long week, okay? So my emotional thing is that people out there don't realize how many alumni we've lost. We've lost a lot, and we were talking about it before we hit live. So today at the intro, I have added, and I think every episode I will honor someone that we have lost. Now, some people would say that, oh, the show did this to them. My thought is that this is the important line here, guys. Whatever the tool is for you out there that you need to get yourself healthy, you need to do it, because obesity and insulin resistance and diabetes are the root of almost every single disease. It wasn't the show. It's the condition. And whatever that tool is for you, you got to find it and never give up. Never give up. I don't know that we have all the tools we need for everybody today. I don't know if there's one size fits all, but just never give up. So that's my piece. Go ahead, Ashley or Dr. Jeff, either one of you.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm still thinking.
Oh, thanks.
I should have asked you. So last week I said, or the week before I said, my biggest takeaway was getting to be on this made me realize in real life, and I don't think everybody gets to have this. You have to experience it, I think, to really embrace the fact that anything is possible. And because I got picked for this show, I know in my heart, it's not a fallacy. It's not a fantasy. It is real that anything is possible. Did that help?
That did help. Do you want me to? I'll go, Jeff. Now I have something
please.
really great. I think my takeaway from the show is learning just how strong I really was beneath everything, beneath the self-doubt that I had carried my entire life, that I could do really hard fucking things. And I am a badass woman. And I ran a marathon. You know, I've done incredible things that I would never imagine that I could have ever done before going on the show. And I really learned who I was beneath all of the, you know, like self embarrassment and negative talk and all these things. Like it really brought out a side of me where I can push through almost anything because I know that I can now. Where before I had so much self doubt, I would try to walk a mile and I'd be like, I can't. And I would stop, you know? And now it's like I get into these workouts where people probably look at me because I'm not at my goal weight yet. And they're probably like, how is she doing that? Well, because I've learned how to like break through this wall of doubt in my brain and push my body to do things that like my mind wants me to stop doing, and not in an unhealthy way, but in like a very empowering way. So that is my hugest takeaway, is just learning just how strong of a woman that I really am.
Oh, that's great. A couple of things. I first of all, as I said, the show got me to start looking forward on my life, and I've never looked back, despite challenges and weight regain, and that I'll always be grateful for. It pushed me and it made me. Still, it's a work in progress, but it's not selfish as a parent to say I need to do this for me. It's actually role modeling. And I want to remind people about that. It's okay to say we're not going to go to X today because I need to go work out, or we're not going to the fest because we're going to, cook together. Or there are things you can do that is not selfish when it's showing that your body is important to you, for your family. I also would say that the show did one thing. It got my patients to be much more comfortable bringing up weight. I cannot tell you how many times that I had to bring it up, and that patients got comfortable. I would give talks, and physicians would complain that I would put obesity as a diagnosis, and they're like, the patients won't like that. I said, well, what do? You don't put hypertension or diabetes. The fact that also, we now recognize it as a disease. Do you know, when I was on the show, obesity wasn't recognized as a disease, and that we got to recognize as a chronic disease that we need to help manage. And that, we're not going to change society. So I hope that people who are listening, that, I love that the show did get people talking about that. And to those who are suffering, surround yourself with people of love and support. Find health professionals who are going to do that, and be on a journey. There's no success or failure. I try to get patients to pick a quality goal. What's something you used to do that you can't do or you want to do, rather than what size or what. In fact, when I auditioned for the show, I was positive they weren't going to pick me. I go in and David Broom. He goes in, I go, oh, where are you from? He goes, Brooklyn. I said, oh, I'm a city boy, and I'm trying to, connect to him. And he goes, how much weight do you want to lose? What's your goal weight? I'm like, I don't have a goal weight. He goes, everybody has a goal weight. I said, I don't have a goal weight. I want to be able to play sports with my kids. I want to be able to be alive for them. I want to be involved with their lives. That's what I want to do. And he hated that answer. I said, fuck, I'm going home, before I even got on the show. But that's what I try to get my patients away from, and not learn from things that you do. Don't beat yourself up about it. And I just wish that others could have the kind of support that I have, or find health professionals or mental health to help them in that journey, so that they can have better quality of life, because guess what? That leads to better quantity of life. And so hopefully that was helpful.
That was wonderful.
Dr. Jeff, Ashley, thank you guys so much for coming in tonight and for sharing all of that with us. I think it was an amazing episode. Everybody watching, thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week and the week after and the week after, as we grow this space to allow alumni to share their stories. We have dozens of other alumni who are already signing up for the future week. So we hope that you will join us. Please do us a favor, like, subscribe, and share, and have a great night. Goodbye.
Actually, such a pleasure meeting, Adrian.
Yes.
Thank you for having this. For those who are listening, we love our Biggest Loser family, and anyone else watching, wishing all you and your families health and happiness. Thank you.
Yes.
And you can hang out for a sec. Is it going to go?